Hello, welcome to Everyday Ordinary, Extraordinary Men. I am Martina and I'm here with Christina.
Hello.
And here's the context, here's why we wanted to create this podcast. Most humans have a lot of preconceived notions and stereotypes about gender. For example, men are tough and silent and forceful, and women are chatty, manipulative, and emotional. And in doing that, we put people in a box and often forget to see beyond those labels. And if someone does not fit the mold, we might call them a tomboy or a sissy. And those and similar labels often cause discord. So, what would a world look like where we go beyond our preconceived notions and understand that we are much more than our gender? That we humans are strong and soft and gentle and deep and powerful and tough and fierce and open, and that qualities are not specific to a gender. That we all have all qualities available to express. What would the world look like where we all are free to be who we choose to be and express all of our emotions? When we allow ourselves to express the so-called masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves, we set ourselves free. And when we allow others to do the same, when we accept all of them, we create synergy, peace, and harmony. And so today, we have the honor to be here with Jon Artigo. Jon, do you want to say hi and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hello. I am Jon Artigo. She's telling the truth. Um, I am a creative type. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer. I'm a director. I am a husband. I am a father. Um, I'm also a son. I guess that would make sense. Um, I love nature. I love being around people. I love conversation. Am, I like my time to kind of sit and do my stuff on my own, and I like my time to do things with other people. I love to collaborate. I love to consider what new things can be done or different ways of doing things that haven't been done. So I don't know. I'm just like a creative individual who likes to go out into the world and see what kind of fun, interesting things we can do.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, Jon, who you are for me. So, I first met you, I think, online when you quickly came to say hi because I'm close friends with your wife.
Yep.
And what first struck me is your love for her and your care for her and your generosity to just let her shine. And that's just so beautiful to see. I love your humor. I love how you look out for everyone because I got to meet you a little bit more just a couple of months ago, and you were just taking care of this group of women. You took us out on a boat, and I just so appreciate that about you. Thank you for being that. And now, if you could answer this question for me, how would you answer it? If we really knew you, what would we know about you?
If you really knew me, you would know that I definitely know how to move forward with confidence to do things and to try new things, but that sometimes that scares me too at the same time. So I have that sort of back and forth of like, hey, I'm ready to go out and just make cool things happen, but I take the when things don't go the way that I expect them to go, I have to recover from that. I will oftentimes take that as personal, hits, not intuitive hits, but personal hits of like, oh, ow, that one hurt. I wasn't expecting it to go that way. So I think people who really know me know that I have both those sides, which are usually like, this is how I present myself to the world, but this is kind of how I really am. And I think I'm just kind of, both. And I go like a wave all the time.
It's beautiful, like as humans, we have that, right? Like we have this picture to the outside, but there's still like, and it's the duality. It's always the duality of both, isn't it? Right? It's like you can be strong, but there's still that part of that wants to be held every so often and needs encouragement. I guess that's what I understood from what you were saying. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Because sometimes there's certain scenarios where you have to be strong, and it doesn't matter anything else that's going on. You have to be that right then in that moment, and that's okay, And then there's other times when you kind of want to feel the other side, like, ooh, I don't feel so great right now. This happened, and I'm kind of bummed about it. You don't want to keep putting on a facade. You have to have an outlet for that, and so obviously that's where obviously having a best friend, having a spouse who is a best friend, having an outlet, someone you can go to and be like, hey, can I just kind of like peel this off and just kind of sit here and be like really who I am and how I feel right now? And I don't have to put on the, hey, we got to be strong. We got to do whatever we have to do to move forward.
So good. Like I think a lot of people power through life like robots, right? It's like that didn't bother me, keep moving forward. But
Yeah.
at some point you usually break down, right? Like it doesn't really work. You need to have that reflection time to be like, wow, I anticipated this going a very different way, and this doesn't feel the way I wanted it to. I need to kind of process this before I move forward, right? Like, and I think
Yes.
those breaks are really powerful. Because we learn a lot from those inter
Yeah.
the spaces where we get to reflect on what has happened. So really good stuff.
Yeah, and in certain scenarios, you can't do anything but have that face. Like you have to, right? Like in all my years teaching, like I never lost it in a classroom. No matter what's going on, you would never see it ever. But yet at home, like even around my kids, I might forget, oh, I've got some kids around me, but I'm feeling a certain way right now. And I just kind of have this kind of has to get out, and then I go, oh, I just got a D- on my report card for how I, how I reacted in that one moment, right there. Whereas like in certain scenarios, you just know you have to be ironclad. But then at home, even maybe you want to have that still in certain situations, you sort of that gets you cracks a little bit and it comes out a little more sometimes when you don't want it to.
Yeah,
Well,
but I don't think that's a bad thing either, John, to show your children that you're human, because then
Yeah.
you get to show them how to clean it up too, right? So which
Yes.
I think might lead us perfectly into our icebreaker
well,
question
hold on a second, Christina. Like our children actually are our biggest triggers, right? They're here to push our buttons, so they're here to help us grow. So of course we're gonna lose them with them because that's how we get to learn and grow. And yes, as Christina said, they see that you're human, right? They see that it's okay every so often it happens, and it's okay. We can clean it up, and have conversations that help heal that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, really good stuff. All right, moving on to our icebreaker. Tell us
Hmm.
about a funny, silly, or embarrassing story.
Gosh, so many. Okay, this one, no, not appropriate. Okay, here's something. Okay, so I was so excited. I used to teach at this high school in Los Angeles, called the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts. And at some point I was like, do I want to teach like college? So LACHSA was on the Cal State LA campus. And so at some point, I went over and talked to the people in the film department at Cal State LA. And I was like, hey, I'm teaching film over here. My students come over and compete against your students, and my students win the festivals, and they're like freshmen in high school. So maybe there's a job where I could like teach one course or something with you. So I taught, I was teaching a college course. They were like, fast forward to like, yeah, John, awesome, come teach a class. I was teaching in a lab, and I was like, "Oh, I've got to run to the restroom." It's adults, so it's okay for me to do that. Like when it's young people, you can't leave them in the class by themselves. But I go to the bathroom, and I'm just like, "Okay, I got to be quick." And I hadn't really been to the bathroom on this floor before, so I walked in, and I was like, "Wow, it's clean in here. It's super clean." And there's so many more stalls than I am used to seeing when I go to the restroom. But whatever, that's cool. It's just how they roll. And I just go in, I go into the bathroom and I sit down. I hear somebody walk in and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Sounds like clicking. And someone sits next to me, and I look under the thing, and I'm like, oh, those are definitely not not a man's pair of shoes. So I was like in the women's restroom. I was sitting there going, okay, I'm at a college campus, and this was like 2015 for reference. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here, but I can't go now because someone's here. So I had to wait. So mind you, I got to get back to my class. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, waiting. Finally, she's done, and she leaves. But someone else comes in, and I waited, and this went on for a little while. And then I was like, okay, now I got to get up and I got to wash my hands and I got to get out of here because I do not want to see anybody's face. Like, please don't let me see anybody's face. I get up, I wash my hands, I go to the door and I open it, and there's a woman sitting right there coming into the restroom. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the wrong restroom. And I said, I'm so sorry. And I went, and my face was red, and I couldn't, and I told Danielle about it. And then the funny thing is, it happened again at Universal Studios. It happened again somewhere else. I'm like, Danielle, it happened to me again. She's like, why does this keep happening to you? I don't know. It's been a while though. It's been a while since I've done it. So I feel proud of how I've, developed at this point.
Very good.
Yeah.
Growing, right? Growing. So, Jon, what makes you come alive? What are you passionate about? Or what do you love about your life?
Well, I'm passionate about creativity. I think that's what anytime I have opportunity to do something, write something, create something, make something, I love that. I love the challenge of it. I'm even doing right now. There's this like sketch writing competition thing is happening tonight, and it's like you get an idea. Sometime around now, I'm gonna get an email, and then we have to write the sketch between now and tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then we turn it in, and then at 12 p.m. tomorrow, people come and they get assigned a script and a director and actors, and then they have to put that script together and perform it that night. So it's like a 24-hour, like, come up with a sketch, write it, and then someone else directs it, but then I'm acting in somebody else's sketch, that I don't know and I won't know until tomorrow at noon. So I like challenges where it's like, especially where you have to do a lot with a little, or you have to it's like MacGyver creativity, it's like you have to take this and this and make something fun out of it. I think that stuff is really cool. So creativity is definitely where my passion lies. It's what I like to encourage other people to do, and it's what I like to do, and I feel like there's great health benefits that come from being creative.
I love it. And I love this theme I keep hearing of collaboration in your creativity. Like,
yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
It's just a very different when you're creating by yourself than when you throw, especially inside of the time frame of a project like the one you're talking about. Like, so cool because you're just seeing things through different lenses, right? Someone else is writing it, you're directing, acting. It's just so many moving pieces. It's so cool.
Yeah, and I prefer, like, I've written screenplays on my own, and I've written screenplays with Danielle, with my wife, and I prefer that over me just sitting by myself and doing it. It's just there's that whole, we get to create something together, so I definitely prefer doing things with people. I can do stuff on my own, but the whole reason why I love filmmaking as an art form is it's like the great collaborator. It involves everything: music, art, design, performance, management, math. I mean, like, it literally involves everything you have to get together to come in to like make a film. So I think that's why I like it so much.
Yeah, so good. There's a cool documentary about I think it's Nashville songwriters, and that's one of the big things that they talk about is most of the real the ones who make a lot of money songwriting are the ones who are collaborating and set that, we just go in, we're working together, we're throwing up punching ideas off each other, and they're knocking out lots of hits that way. But they said they definitely create more than when they were writing on their own, and I thought that was really interesting.
Right.
So tell us about, this is a kind of multi-part one, and you can answer it however you want. But tell us about your biggest lesson in life, or what took the most courage, or what was your biggest challenge, or what made you who you are today?
Oh my gosh, all those things are like the
I
same
know. It could
thing.
be all the same. It could be one
Well,
answer. It could be
yeah,
multi.
well, I'm just thinking of, um, it's not easy to choose to go into a career of like going into filmmaking or going into the creative arts like as a career. I mean, I knew from early on, I was like, oh yeah, it's not. If you want to go and make money, you make these choices. If you want to have a challenging life, then you make these choices, and you go this direction. But I was always so into filmmaking since I was very young, and like I grew up as a John Hughes fan. I grew up watching all those movies in the 80s, romantic comedies, like even from when I was like 12 years old, I was like, I want to make romantic comedies, like that's kind of the genre that I really liked. Even though I enjoyed Star Wars and I enjoyed other movies, like I didn't want to write or make sci-fi films or fantasy films. I wanted to make films about relationships for some reason. That's just what I was always into. And so I think it took a lot for me to, I've always been pursuing that career and I've had many ups and downs, success and then nothing and then success and then nothing and then hope and then hope and then maybe a little bit more hope and then nothing. And it's like things like that. So I've definitely fallen down and picked myself back up many times, and here I am at 52, and I'm like, I'm still somewhere on that, trying to like make something happen or see if I can get something going or see if I can build off of the success of this thing. And that is something that is constantly, that is a life, that is my life. I mean, it's always been that. I've never abandoned it. I mean, I've abandoned it at times, like the way that you might break up with a person and say, I'm never dating again. It's like I've broken up with my career as a filmmaker and then maybe went and taught classes for a little while. But then sure enough, when it gets quiet, I want to think about a movie that I want to write and I want to go and get some funding so that I can get it made. It's just like that's how it's been. So yeah, I think it's kind of been throughout. Did that answer it? Did I miss a piece?
No, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. I think it's hard when you're a creative person, right? Because that it's not going to be a smooth, easy ride, right? You're not going to have a steady paycheck every week. It's going to be,
Yeah.
like you said, those ups and downs.
Mhm.
But it's always calling to you, right? Like you do
Yeah.
the steady jobs, and it's always going to call you back, right? Like because it's in your soul. Like being a writer, filmmaker, creative is just in your soul. It's never going to leave you.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well,
Yeah, and well, the challenge of that, right, is to pick yourself up every time, and the courage it takes, right, to pick yourself up every time, dust yourself up, and just continue walking, right? Continue walking, and I think, what you call it in movies? You aired a movie, you made a movie, or you wrote a script for a movie that was made. Uh,
yes, that was
got for
premiered, yeah, on Hallmark. Yeah,
yeah, on Hallmark, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that was a different, like my before that it was, get some people together, get some funding, make your movie, and then you have to get it distributed. And then once you get it distributed, like we have films on Amazon and Apple TV, you would think if those are there, then that's probably a good thing. It means that you're probably making some money, but it doesn't work that way. And they're all these they get these titles and they put them out there, but then they just make their numbers work in a certain way that, oh, we're not really profitable. So even though your movie brought in this, and this, we paid for this and that and whatever, and when it's all said and done, we're in the negative. And that's the report that we get every quarter. It's the same thing. And I know it's never going to change, at least in terms of those films.
So, John, tell us about the time you took a chance for love. And it doesn't have necessarily to be romantic love. When did you take a chance for love?
Yeah. Well, I would say it was when I was in my 20s. And so back to that whole conversation about how you grow up and your parents tell you, you know, you should do a job and be an engineer, or you should be do this thing. It's more steady, you know, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's what my dad always told me, you know, like, dude, like, you definitely want to get a job that you can like support a family on and, you know, things like this. So, so when I was like 26 or so, it was like it was after college and I was living in San Diego and I was like working at a restaurant as a busboy and I was like, what do I want to do? I mean, I think I mean, I love doing stuff with nature and the outdoors. Like, I think I might go to Colorado and work search and rescue. Like, I love being outdoors. I love like, that just seemed exciting and fun to me, you know? So I told my dad, who was also like, he liked outdoor stuff as well. And I mean, he had always wanted to be a park ranger, but he couldn't get in that. And so he became an engineer and, you know, so on and so forth. So I called my dad and I thought he would be excited to hear it. He was like, what's up, John? And I'm like, well, I just want to tell you, like, I think I'm going to go to Colorado and I'm going to join the search and rescue and I'm going to work like in Denali National Park and do search and rescue. He's like, oh, he's like, that sounds really cool. He goes, but how does that help you get closer to your goal? And I'm so confused. I was like, wait, what?
What the-
What do you mean? I'm like, well, what goal? He's like, well, you always talk about doing stuff with film and, you know, acting and performing and things like that. He's like, how does that help you get closer? And I'm like, well, it doesn't. I'm like, maybe I'll have some interesting experiences that I can write about later. But just from that one conversation, he's like, well, what do you want to do? And it just came out. It's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I want to be on Saturday Night Live. It's like, oh, well, where do you need to go for that? And I was like, Chicago. And he goes, oh, I thought that was in New York. He's like, well, Saturday Night Live's in New York, but everybody who feeds into Saturday Night Live comes out of the comedy scene in Chicago. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, well, can you go to Chicago? I said, maybe. I would have to like look into it. And like within probably 3 days, I had already made the plans. And within 2 weeks, I was in my car driving whatever stuff I owned to Chicago. And I went there for a year. And I went there because I wanted to try to see if I could go through the circuit and maybe Lorne Michaels would be there from Saturday Night Live and somehow he'd be like, John has something cool. And I would get on Saturday Night Live. And that was my goal. And I that to me is like, it's a love that it wasn't something I haven't always been pursuing getting on Saturday Night Live my entire life. But I've always had this thought of like, I can do it. I know I can do it. So I need to try to get myself noticed. And so just going out to Chicago and trying to do that and being in that scene out there was, you know, probably the best answer that I have for that question.
And there's so much I hear in that answer too, because it's also the love your dad had for you, that he could see what you really loved, right? And then your dad's love, that you could trust his vision of you and that you should just go do it, right? Like, so much good stuff in that answer. Martina,
Yeah.
you have something to say too.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that he really supported you and like, you know, we have love, we mix it always up with romantic love, right? But that was
Mhm.
just an act of self-love, right? Like an act, a huge act of courage and an act of self-love, like putting yourself first, standing up for something that mattered. That could have answered the other question as well, right? That we just
Yeah.
asked. So it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And the willingness of your dad in those times, right? It's, I'm going to say in those times, it's not that, but still that he was so committed to you, right? To what you wanted rather than the right thing and what will feed your family and whatever, but just letting you explore and find out.
Yeah. And you know what happened is I went out there and I uh, didn't get onto Saturday Night Live. Spoiler alert. If you go look, you'll find that I'm not there. But it was the improv work that I did out there significantly increased my writing level. It like made it so that I no longer afraid to make choices. Ever since I did that, I'm a fast writer. I'm on point, and I'm not afraid to make choices because I know I can change them later. And it definitely taught me that. And that was not something that I expected that would come out of that experience.
That in itself is another huge nugget, right? We believe that the end goal is where we need to go rather than all the little pieces that take us, that teaches us what we need to teach to for the next step to go wherever ultimately we are supposed to go, I'm going to say, rather than where we wish to go, right? Where it's all okay, the next baby step, this is where, that's why you need to be here, this is what you need to learn. Okay, next step, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even learning. Sometimes it's meeting the people you're supposed to meet along the way. Like maybe the experience was okay, but you met some person that's become a lifelong friend or introduced you to a connection that shifted something for you. So yeah, there's always nuggets along the way. Really good stuff. So Jon, how do you recharge your batteries? What do you do to take care of yourself?
Well, nature plays a role. Being in nature without a to-do list, I guess. Just being, new for me here out in St. Mary's now in our current situation, being out on the boat on the water is really nice, because when you're out there, you can't do anything else. It's not like I can't get on my computer. I can't, I'm not a big attachment. Like I'm not attached to my phone, like I regularly leave my phone just on somewhere in the house that I don't keep it with me a lot, So everybody here is familiar with me saying like, has anybody seen my phone? Because I don't have it's not attached to my hip. So, if I'm looking for moments to recharge, nature can do that. If I'm looking for moments to recharge, also just something that I got from Danielle is just sitting down and even doing just a small meditation. That will help me recharge, especially if I need to also reset with my recharge. That is helpful. And then sometimes there's just the recharge in life, like, oh my God, we've done so much now, going somewhere for like a week or 10 days, being out in nature and really recharging from like maybe months or years of lots of things going on. To me, I think that's a big thing that works for me. Nature, I think grounding is a big part of my experience, and sometimes I try to push it away because I feel like I have too much to do. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Awesome. I can relate to that. And I've added a grounding sheet on my bed to add to my grounding experience in my world.
Yeah.
I also, because I live in the city, on my 14th floor apartment, I have a lot of plants in my apartment to bring nature inside, right? Like, so I may not be able to get out into nature all the time, but at least I can surround myself with plants in here. So I can relate to that.
It helps. It helps.
It does. It's not the same, but it helps.
Yeah.
And then the other part is like we don't think it's important enough, right? And it is so important that we just stop and recharge, because otherwise, we don't have any juice, to keep going.
Yep.
So, Jon, if you had a magic wand and you could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is probably a pretty obvious one, but it's compassion. Having so many people go about their life and they kind of do their own thing, and then there's that person has that person's experience, but that's not my experience. Like, I don't know, I'm just going to stay here and just keep doing whatever's in my lane. But having compassion for other people, for other people's situations, I think there's a lot of that lacking in the world. And so if I could just kind of wave a wand and just at least take care of that aspect, make sure that people have compassion, I would. I would also say, not so much of this is more of a skill that people could do a better job with in the world, which would be listening. That is something that, for some reason, people just forget that that's something that they can do, and that if people listened more, that they might be better off for it, and the people around them might be better off for it. I don't know, those two things stand out to me. Anything that kind of, I guess, just connects people more with each other. I think that is key. My son would have wanted me to say, like, if you can make people fly or something like that. Those are fun. Those are fun too. But really, I think it's about connection. I think anything that relates to connection, getting people to be more connected, and not just in the world, but in your home, in your relationships. It's so easy to just be like, oh, we're just here, we're doing all these different things, but there's also that connection that you need to have that needs to be there. And whether it's there or isn't there, it can feel like it's not there if there's so much other stuff going on that you don't have a moment, to sit and connect.
Yeah. Good stuff. Really good stuff.
The connection piece, I literally just listened to a podcast last week where he talks about when people are seen, when things are seen, it literally changes the atoms in their DNA. So it, like, the moment you feel seen, you feel, and that's inside of what I hear inside of you talking about connection, right? It's like that seeing the other, like feeling seen, like feeling seen,
Yeah, and feeling heard,
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Mhm.
So, Jon, what's your superpower?
Ooh, my superpower is, God, we just sound like a broken record here, but I think one of my superpower is bringing people together, and whether it's social or professional, and like, making really cool things happen, so I think that, leadership, team building, things like that, I think those are things that I naturally do well, organizationally speaking. um, Probably more so organizationally or professionally, or like family, and maybe like the least part of that would be like on like the friend side of things. I don't know why, I don't have, like, it's funny, but I don't have like friends that I interact with very much. Like, I have old friends who I'll always be close to, but it's not like we talk regularly. um but I think when I go into places, I'm always very focused on what's happening. So I have my old relationships that I love and enjoy and appreciate. Like when I was in high school, like I loved my friends from high school, and I still do, but I don't talk to them a lot. Doesn't mean I don't care for that situation. And same with college, and same with a couple different places I've worked. But I'm always putting my energy into what is in front of me and what I feel like is most important. So that's usually just my family, my wife, my kids. It's my immediate family, and then it's whatever job I'm doing or something that I need to be successful with, and I need to be putting my energy there. And so I don't do so well when it comes to like bringing people together from like a friend standpoint, but like I do it really well in a professional standpoint. And I think like in my family as well, although we just, we're kind of naturally just together all the time, living in the same house and whatnot. But I would say bringing people together and making things happen, and helping people to elevate, so that if they're just kind of here and they feel like they could do more, I feel like I can come in and work with people and I can help them to do more.
So good. So good, especially in a world where we're so self-focused, that to be someone who wants to, um, be a leader and show up and see how people can fit together to make magic happen, right? Like, I don't think that's how everyone looks at things, and so I love that that's the lens you choose to see the world through is really beautiful.
Yeah, and it's also with students too, like when I did work for those 10 years at LACHSA, I think that I was a very good mentor for young people, just trying to help them. And I think also really speaking the language and having like a deep understanding and connection to people who have various disabilities, that are learning disabilities, that is autism, that is Asperger's, that is neurodivergence, like anything that makes them feel like they don't quite fit in to the normal thing, are the kids who would come by my desk all the time and want to just talk to me about stuff. And then all of a sudden that person's like going to college to be an editor because they found their like home in an editing room and in the details of like notes and precision editing, which they didn't have anything that they were connected to before. So I think like, again, helping people to find their place. It's funny. It's like in different ways, Danielle and I do some of the same things, but she's doing it on the spiritual side of things. And I do it sometimes with people who are just like trying to find their place in growing up and like kind of transitioning to be in high school or transitioning to be an adult.
Which is so beautiful, right? Because you both have the same commitment to being of service to people, but you just have different communities that you're spreading your magic in, which is even better, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a gift, really,
Yeah.
what a gift. So, what are you most proud of? What do you consider your biggest accomplishment?
Oh, I think that it's like what I want to say. I feel like there's still so much work that needs to be done for it to be an accomplishment. What I want to say is my family is what I want to say is like getting, meeting Danielle and having a family together and things like that. I think that to me is it's just more important than everything else. But I feel like I have a lot of work to do to like really make sure that everybody's okay. So it feels like just getting the opportunity is the accomplishment, but it's not over, and I probably won't ever be over. But I want to work so hard at it to try to make sure that everyone's okay and everyone's taken care of and everyone's getting to do the things that they want to do, and obviously feeling loved and all that, which they should. But sometimes kids don't always have all of the knowledge yet, but they will one day. So I don't know. That's what comes to mind. It's complicated because it's not going to be a screenplay that I wrote or something. I used to always say, again, even when I was like young, I always knew that I wanted to be married and have a family. Didn't know when it was going to happen. It didn't happen for me until I was almost 40. And I had always said like, yeah, I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna have a family. And I was like, yeah, I want to make movies, but more important to me than like winning an Oscar and I want to be known as like, he was the best father. He was the best husband. And those are the things that are like the biggest for me, is that stuff. And those other things are fun, they're fun, but they're just not, they're not deeply a part of like what I desire and I'm working on. That is the most important thing, to me, is these people behind this door somewhere in the house.
And
So beautiful.
it definitely is an ongoing work in progress, right? It's like, okay, today is a very good day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, maybe, who knows? Particularly, like you have a daughter in puberty right now, and that's, sometimes a little bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah,
Which
I've
is
heard not
experience.
sometimes. I've heard it's all of the time. I don't know. I've heard different things, but mostly it's all of the time is what I hear.
Yeah. It will get better. I promise you that. My baby turned 18 and it will get better. It does get better.
Okay. Well, I'll keep you updated and I'll let you know when you're correct.
So, Jon, last question.
Yeah.
What are you most grateful for?
Well, I'm thinking of this on two levels. Okay. So I'm thinking about it in this life. I am grateful for the people that I've been able to meet and interact with. And mostly I'm grateful for meeting Danielle and us getting together and being like, yeah, let's, have a family and all this. I'm most grateful for that. If you zoom out even further, I'm grateful to just be here, be here, having this life, having these opportunities. I'm grateful that although our family right now, there's some challenges that we're working through to just kind of make sure that we are all in the right place. I'm grateful to be in this situation where I have to try to figure out how we're going to get to where we want to be. Because every day is a gift. Every day is a gift, and every day is an opportunity to do something to make a difference. I always think sometimes when I go to bed at night, it's just right before I'm about to fall asleep, the thought always hits my head like, this is the end of a day. This day is over. This day will never be again. So whatever I did in this day was my one opportunity on this day to make a difference. And when you go to bed, you're closing the book on that day, and you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, God willing, and you're going to have a new day. But I'm always thinking about that. Oh my gosh, this day is gone. And so I'm grateful for the days.
It's so good. I do a similar thing at the end of the night, and I just ended with, it was perfect, and so be it. Right? I'm thankful for whatever happened, whatever I want to say about the day, and it was perfect, even if it was chaotic. I'm just how I end the day. It was perfect, and so be it. Right? So then you just start fresh the next day. And what a beautiful, beautiful message to end our podcast on. So thank you for that. Thank you for the gift of your time. It was really, really a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for your wisdom, your vulnerability, and your creativity, because it's really infectious. So thank you for that. Martina, do you want to say anything to end? Oop, you're on mute, Martina.
I'm on mute. Look at that. I have airplanes flying over all the time, and I'm like, oh. Thank you, Jon. Thank you for your humor too, right? And for your love. It's just really beautiful to see you. And for all of you out there, thank you for being here, for listening. If you love this, please share. Just please share. Remember, you are extraordinary. You rock. Have a wonderful day. Jon, do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah, I want to say goodbye to everybody. I want to thank you too for this opportunity. You guys have wonderful energy, really good conversational energy. I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate what you're doing. And I'm rooting for you all the way and hoping for the best.
Right back at you. Goodbye for now.